Today is Thursday, August 20th, and this is a meeting of the Senior Center Building Committee. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. Public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. All right, I call us to order at 4:50 p.m. All right. Can I get a motion to amend the agenda to eliminate approval of the minutes? Unless Dennis has a surprise.
Nope.
Okay,
So moved.
all right. Seconds?
Second.
All right, we are all here, so all in favor?
Aye.
Right, the chair says aye, awesome. Okay, so we will jump right into the meat of it, the MIPA and MISA update, and I know that this says Dan Van Schouwburg on it, but Ken has offered to provide the update as Dan is on vacation.
Okay, so we have good news in that Ethiopian knows this as well, than some members of the committee, but the process that we had to go through from MIPA, which was designed to get our certificate on August 14th, and that is what happened. So the certificate is dated August 14th. The process that we started by an application, literally took months to produce. The application was submitted on June 30th. Then the MIPA document was published. What they call the environmental monitor, which is the document that tracks all their applications. It was published on July 8th. And at that time, we were given a date that the best situation we could get would be a certificate on August 14th. And that's exactly what happened. So we have this long certificate. It's been approved. I can get copies to the rest of the committee. I did provide some copies to the OPM and haven't gotten to John yet. But the long and the short of it is, as we may recall, Goddard, our consultant who worked on this extensively, had given us a schedule that of the best that could happen. This is the first step of that best that could happen process as far as timing is concerned. So when we got that certificate, if you may recall, the second part of the certificate was we included in the application two pieces. One was what was called an enhanced environmental notification form, the so-called ENF, and the second part was the proposed environmental impact report, the PEIR. Both of those went in at the beginning with the application as was recommended by Goddard. So the process was completed and have got the certificate. That's the term they use. It's not a permit, it's a certificate that they issue for the first part, which was the environmental notification form. And in that certificate, in the very first paragraph, and Goddard had told us this, they will let us know whether they were going to roll over, which is the term they use, the environmental impact report right away. In other words, no delay. And that's what they did. So they gave us the rollover. And now we're waiting, it's only till next week, that environmental impact report will be published next week's in the environmental monitor and start a 30-day comment period for that piece. So what happened basically is in many situations, these require a delay between the environmental notification form being given a certificate and then the next application for the environmental impact report. So they determined we needed the environmental impact report, but we were allowed to roll it right away into the period for the next comment period for the environmental impact report. So all of this, the information we were provided by Goddard that to keep the dates where we have given everyone the dates are still matching up. So at this point in time, we've got a very positive, that's not an approval, but a certificate. And it's just, I can't even explain to you how many documents are involved and how much work was involved in this by everybody, pretty much on subgroups and of course the consultant and whatnot. During the process, there were two meetings. One meeting was a on Teams type meeting directly with the state, the representative, the analyst that is the one who processed the application. And we did that as a working group. Katie, Dan and I were on that with the consultant. And that generated a series of questions. That was July 28th. So July 8th, it gets published. Subsequent to that, about a week later, they say, we want to meet you July 28th on Teams. That created another series of questions that are brought up by the analyst. And I want to tell you, it was incredible work that Goddard did to respond to those questions within only a few days. She told us on that date that we had, that day was the 28th, and the analyst told us on that date, we needed to her by the following Tuesday, I believe. It was a Thursday. And if that was achieved by that Tuesday, there would be no delay in the potential approval. So then what happened is there's an end date for comments, which was that very next week. So August 7th was, so she basically told us 28th would have a meeting, we had to be meeting, we had time to respond till Wednesday the next week. There were 2 more days for comments from the public, then closed on the 7th. And a week later, we got the certificate. So there was absolutely no delays, which was amazing to me, between the state and Goddard. And it took a lot of documents to do that. So pleased about that. So we're right where we anticipated with no delays at this point. So now we go in, as an original application included both the environmental notification form and the environmental impact report. So that environmental impact report is now going to be put up online. And then the 30 days will be a 30-day comment period for that. So at this point in time, we're in good shape for that particular piece of work. Now, I just had Katie print 2 of these that are in front of us. I just want to take a second to go over what we have here. So there was these, correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, the application was like 120 pages.
Yeah.
The application, yeah.
Somewhere in the vicinity of 120 pages and okay. So amongst those many pages, what came up, which was very important, was the analyst determined that there could be no, first of all, we know we broke the lot up. That was very, very important to break off that lot, okay, and discuss just the lot. Because they knew in their research that the whole project was 126 acres, the whole DPW project. So us breaking the lot off helped identify exactly where the project was. And then during the process, it was evident that there's actually 3 parts to our project. The part where the project is being built, the senior center, the water line of utilities down the street, and the third, the electric utility up over the slope to the easement line. So all of the documents ended up being considered, consolidated all of that. So Dan's department had provided them in the application with Goddard documents to show all of those parts connected. So it's a total project that is shown. Then they talked about, how'd you put the water line in now type thing. And we heard from Dan before that Natural Heritage had given the exemption for the street. We could work down the street, but they still wanted to clarify it. So they did clarify it through all the documents. So this plan, there's 2 plans, but the first one, if you take the one that shows the red lines, you'll see that this was just one of many pages of drawings and plans that showed the shape of the senior center lot, and then the tail that takes you up to the power, the so-called FEMA flood map. So part of the whole process, remember, they're looking at every environmental impact. So we made a decision to put that in that corner of the DPW land to just stay out of the floodplain. And we stayed out of the buffer zones for wetlands. So that was very important as well. They look at all of that stuff. So those sections in the application and those sections in their responses clarified that we did accomplish that we were out of that floodplain. So that's this, you know, you can see the floodplain shown here on this one. And then the water
Is that
line,
the blue?
that's the blue, right? So we're just outside of it. And you can see the red line down the street represented the water line. And then the little tail of the lot showed the project up to the power line. So that, I'm just showing you this because it's only one of many, many pages, but it's kind of a neat page. It shows you. And then the second one,
Oh, this is the power line?
that's the power line connection. So what I emphasize is that when we left here, you know, as a group, we kind of thought it was going to be the lot only. But when it went through the process, that was not what happened. The process said, no, that's not enough. You need to show us everything. So they asked us for the explanation about the water line. They asked us for clarification on the utilities. And I spoke to Katie about this, and when and if you read the certificate, I've never seen a document that basically talked about everything that we've talked about for the last 2 years is in that document and so the time we spent thinking about the lots and looking at all the lots, they needed to know all of that. All the lots we looked at are listed. So the way they approach this on a state level is, you've picked a piece of land that's in an environmentally sensitive area. Prove to us how you got there. You can't just say, oh, we picked that piece of land and we're gonna go over there. So we had to show them all the documents. We went back to 2018 in the answers, all the feasibility studies, all the work that was done, the breakdown of the lots we looked at, and an explanation of each lot why it didn't work. All of that. The same thing happened on the water line. How did you choose to go down? Why'd you go down the street? Why didn't you put a well in? Why didn't you do this? You know, all that. Then the same thing on the electric. So the work that Dan did and showed us over the last year and a half of his analysis of the cost of the water, his analysis of the 3 ways to put the utilities in, the fact we couldn't go down the street, and the National Grid wouldn't even give us an easement to go down the street. All of that's in there to be covered, so that at the end, they agree, okay, we did all the work, and that you can use that site type of work is what thought. It's an incredible piece of work. So this shows you that, it shows you the tail. When we get through, the other thing that's very important, we're gonna look at the second document now, okay, the second one that I had it printed up, which is this showing the red where the senior center is, and then blue on the left-hand side of the senior center. And this, as you can see, this drawing is called the impact mitigation plan. Again, this was done by Goddard, a consultant. It's put together that we need to provide 2 times the amount of land that we use given to conservation. We need to double, it's a 2-for-1 give. So the requirement for, this is under the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. We need to double the amount of land saved for conservation from the amount of land that we use for the project. So we needed to calculate the utility easement up to the power lines, how many acres that was, how many, because we knew how many acres our project was. And then they asked us to add the impact on the road for the water. So Dan measured down the road and said the trench was 4 feet wide by certain 1,600 and added that. So we needed to add every piece of land that we touched to the project size for them to determine how much we're going to give away as part of conservation. So we will be using this blue area, as you see on the left. That ends up being like 8.84 acres, where our project ends up in the vicinity of 4.2 acres. So we needed to add the utility pieces to that to get up to 4.4 so acres and show them the 8.84 acres on the left-hand side. So this has been talked about with Dan, has been talking about this, not just with the Mass Environmental Policy Act people, but also the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species people. And so this demonstrates what we'll be taking to conservation and other committees to show them this is what we're proposing to use as protected land for the town. We're going to take another piece of DPW land and turn it into.
Do we know what entity will, I know that we talked for a while about what entity we would give that conservation land to so that they would control it or own it or.
Okay, so what's in our documents right at this point in time and we've had preliminary discussions with conservation, is that the Town of Air Conservation Commission will get the land, okay? So it'll stay within the Town of Air.
So the third party, we're not gonna use a third party
You
to,
have to use the third party as a monitor. So there'll be a separate piece, and we're asking another entity that does that at the moment. It's a North County Land Trust right there, to monitor, so that it cannot be the same entity. This is really a pain. So the conservation restriction dictates that you have one group that owns it, and then a second group that provides the monitoring of the land.
and who pays North County Trust?
The Conservation Commission won't pay. We have fees in our conservation land to pay those kinds of monitoring.
I see, okay.
So they have budgets for that. So there'll be a step going forward where we'll be going to the Conservation Commission and firming this up. Now, remember, when we had a town meeting, a recent town meeting, where we assigned the select board with the ability to write the easements for these pieces of property. I don't know if you remember that. There was 2 articles at town meeting where we went, and those 2 articles were to give the electric company the easement they need to come from the power lines to the site. And the second one was to give the easement for the conservation restriction. So we have put in place these pieces over months and months and months of work. And it turned out these were all the things that are being considered in this work that we did. So I wanted to show you this, but this only represents a tiny portion of the work that was done. And submitting it by Goddard. And I was so impressed. When we had the meeting with the state and the questions came up, there was an opportunity for them to make a mistake there or to delay it, and they never did that. They went immediately. In fact, the gentleman from Goddard, we had a meeting it was a 5 o'clock meeting, it was a strange time with the state. He wrote us an email at 6:45 that night, analyzing the questions that came up right at that meeting, and the next day they went to work on the question and submitted the responses. And it was basically called supplemental, response type thing. So we're on schedule for that, and we're in good shape. One of the questions that I have now is, there was a comment period with the Mass Environmental, the first part of the process, which was the environmental notification form. Is this next comment period that I actually called Goddard before I came down here tonight to check to see if we should have an additional positive comments that we put in during the next 30 of 25 days, that we should get more letters and more positive comments. And I did want to cover one final thing. So during the process with the Mass Environmental Policy Act, simultaneous, with the Natural Heritage Endangered Species, and they sent a very comprehensive letter to the other, to MIPA. So from MISA to MIPA was a nice letter that explained that had been talking to them for a long time in a cooperative way, and that they didn't anticipate any issues with this project. They said there was a few questions that needed to be answered, but we're going through that process. So they actually, one state agency notified the other state agency, which I thought was, I had no idea it was gonna happen. I just saw it in the comments, in the letters. And that turned out to be probably one of the most important letters that we got, because it showed that we were not evading any piece of this at all. We were working through the processes simultaneously. So if Dan was here, I'd give him a big pat on the back. But that's my report on that. And if anyone has a question, you have to answer.
Just one quick one, though, and to button up after this comment period that we have with being in the monitor, as it sees selfishly what's that do for us? And just to say what our expectations are after that comment period. I know that there's chicken or the egg with both MISA and MIPA. And then after that portion is what is it that is submitted? Is it considered another CMP, or is it a certificate that actually gets issued?
Well, right now, we're in the process for natural heritage. They know they have to issue a CMP. But what I don't know, we have to get the answer to, is when this particular process ended on August 7th, and they told us if everything was done then the certificate would be the 14th. I haven't heard that date for the second part.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is gonna happen is that when they publish it next week, that will become evident. So when
Right.
the EIR gets published, because that's what happened with the other process, was published and then told you right in the publication.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, get the date, so they should tell us the 30-day ends. I forget what, I wanna say the 30 days gonna end.
I have it in front of me, my
Yes,
notes from
What is
the
it, September
Goddard's.
22nd?
Yeah, it's, they gave us a duration anticipated between 10/1 and 10/9 for
Okay.
issue of the EIR.
Okay, so that matches up, because the comments
Yeah.
end on around the 20, if it's next week, then I'll call it the 24th. Month from that will be the 24th,
Yeah,
and then it takes them a week or so to write it and issue it. Yeah.
And that 1 week is what, when I do my schedule update in a minute, I'll show where that pushed the EIR out that
Okay.
same amount, that 1 week.
Okay,
And if we're comfortable thinking that the comment period ending on or about the 22nd, 23rd, and it's gonna, so how does this affect our ability to put out the project to bid? And
that's what we wanted to go over. with
Yeah,
our
Okay.
schedule.
we'll show that, I think.
Yeah, any comments on that process first, and then that segues perfectly into the next item of the agenda, the timeline. I will stop sharing,
anything?
and then.
I just want to say congratulations to everybody who worked on it. Like it was, sounds like you were right on top of the whole process and Goddard did a great job.
Goddard really showed that, I have to say. I mean, that document, taking a look at that document, it is exhaustive. There is a incredible amount of work, as Ken said.
And if any adverse comments come in over the next 30 days, how are they handled, or what will have to happen?
There's going to be the possibility of two things. They could be just not addressed because they were already addressed in the document. It could be a misunderstanding of something that was covered in the document. Or they could, if they become new information, then Goddard and we will have to respond.
Respond to the commenter or
No,
the state agency?
It'll go to the agency will decide whether they want to create the question back.
Yep.
So even after Dan and Scott, we had a working group meeting, a week or so ago, and even then, the stuff that we saw in writing, Dan said, oh, you know what, Ken, there's been like 3 or 4 other phone calls on this. So you see 100% what you think is 100%, but in the meantime, there's still a few other phone calls that they're responding to. So maybe an email that goes out or something like that. It's just,
Yeah, and just to add on to Ellen's comment quickly, as someone that has a little bit of experience with this process, this team and project is very fortunate to have Ken and Dan and Katie, who have really kind of shepherded that and making sure that this has gone as efficient as
Yeah,
possible.
sounds
So-
like it's just, I worked for the state, so for 20 years and in environmental areas, so I know that that's not the norm.
Sure.
Always delays.
So I think the short answer to the question is that when comments are made by the public, they get filtered through MIPA, and MIPA decides if they want to ask a question as a result of that comment.
Sure.
And if they do, then we are given the opportunity to respond to it.
there's always a misunderstanding, I think, that nobody, if you hadn't attended many of our meetings, there's always going to be a misunderstanding as to what we did. So people are apt to ask a question that we covered, and it becomes somewhat redundant, but in any event, I encourage you, when we have time, that you read that certificate, because it's everything you can imagine that we talked about is in there over the years. It's not in there.
So that color is a little bit different, but so apologize if this isn't super visible. I will zoom in on this. So this timeline is hot off the press and is aligned with the update that Ken just gave about the permitting timeline for the remaining steps leading up to what I've bolded here, which is the issue of the environmental impact report final certificate, and subsequently the submission and approval of the conservation management permit, which follows this step here, the final circuit on the EIR. And Goddard advised us on our working group call that they sat in on last week that this period of time needed to be extended a little bit following, because it was more of a duration than a single date milestone. So that conservation management permit, they suggested we add about 10 days, this is business days, so that's 2 weeks. Pushing the final completion of this to 10/23. Now, this is an important milestone here for the project because we need the conservation management permit in order to start construction, to start any disturbance on the site. So this is really the key date that we've been monitoring. We haven't included all of the intermediate steps that Ken was describing in here, but we've been sort of focused on the major milestones and what those do to drive the rest of the schedule.
So being able to disturb the site sometime between Monday, the 26th of October and
Well, we don't have to see where you do that
The
then.
12th and the 23rd.
But we can't do it.
To your point though, Dennis, what can we do in order to make sure once
Yes.
we're able to put a shovel in the ground, that we can put a shovel in the ground is the
Mhm.
question.
I'm gonna zoom out a little.
With mitigating as much risk as possible. Ultimately, we could go out to bid tomorrow and have a bid in hand. And now we have a contractor on board ready with his shovel and we're telling him he can't start work, which is going to be adverse for the town.
And that's been the balancing act that we've been discussing.
So winter construction will be occurring outside with the concrete issue potentially and all the rest of it. Well, it's November 1st before.
Yeah, we'll have means and methods. We'll also talk with Catlin about certain specs about duration of the contract for construction. And whether or not that we feel it's prudent to have, you sign a contract with a contractor and you have almost a procurement window. What are your long lead time items? Let's get all your paperwork taken care of. A lot of the middles getting done in those first months. But in the same breath, there will be safeguards and language in our specification that talks about cold weather procedures that you have on this that would be submitted by the contractor to be reviewed by the designer. All of which can come at a cost, so the contractor is going to know what our schedule is. There's gonna be no, we're not hiding anything about when you're going to start. And ultimately how they want to manage those winter conditions.
So now we're looking at just thinking out and given 14 to 16 month construction time. So now we're looking Christmassy, sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas of 27.
I don't think so. It's very rough.
So sometime in January of 28.
Right about now, yeah, based upon what we have for duration of construction and when we're going out, yes. But to your point, we're out with the contractor in November. At this point, they're gonna clear the site, they're gonna flat the site, and then they're gonna dig foundations and pour immediately at that point. And then there's gonna be cold construction after that. Any steel is gonna be done in the cold, the detailing. All of which is gonna need to be maintained by the GC, with the contract that we have.
This is substantial, what's new to most everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people on this group is. There's a tremendous amount of paperwork in what they call submittals, so everything that's specified on the drawings to go in. The contractor has to submit to the architect and to the OPM that they comply and that the products they're supplying match that. So there's a time of just the steel, for instance, has to be, steel drawings have to be done. It takes a long time to get those drawings done. And things of that nature, even every piece of the job. So there's a delay at the beginning just because there's a delay at the beginning to get all that paperwork lined up and approved. It doesn't, they can't do anything until they get it through the OPM, through the architect and back to that. That's approved, that matches up with what's called, so.
Yeah.
And just for sequencing, it doesn't go through us, but we monitor and we are also reviewing the submittals, but ultimately the stamp will come from the
Right, then you're
designer
gonna,
at the end, yes.
these series of questions are gonna come up for clarification.
Yes.
Request for information, the RFIs you call, stuff like that.
That will start in the bidding window,
Right.
right? We'll get those immediately, but even once those contractors on board, I would anticipate, I know these drawings are the best we've ever seen, but we will still have multiple RFIs on this project about coordination and so.
There are always RFIs, and it's not always from the general contractors either. Sometimes they come from the subcontractors confirming where their scope ends and somebody else's begins.
You showed that the bidding is gonna start on August the 21st. Is that still feasible?
No,
No,
No. This is,
no,
so
it's, yeah.
where, yeah, so
anticipate the bid, where I've drawn the line of the start of the bid phase is at the conclusion of the pre-qualification phase. Catlin still needs to finish the drawings. And that's all shown here with the conclusion of the pre-qualification phase, ideally leading into a final review phase. And I think we would anticipate that following our next building committee meeting, we would be in a position to authorize the release of the project for bidding. That's a 1 month frame.
step in a little. My recommendation is if we can thread a needle where this 30-day comment period is completed and we have a building committee and there's comfortability amongst this committee at this point to say, yes, we're ready to go out to bid. That bidding window is 6 weeks, 7 weeks is what we're going to have. So we would be getting out ahead of this certification or permitting being issued, but we're also giving us a runway where if there is any hookups or if there is any delays on that, we're still within that bidding window. We can issue any addenda or notifications to potential bidders about what the issues are, but we're still getting it as quickly as possible. We're not starting bidding once we get that and then adding another 7 weeks onto it.
that's what Brian's describing is shown here further down the schedule, where we need to complete the documents, authorize the release of the documents for bidding through this committee, and then advertise so that we first of all, we notify all of the bidders who are pre-qualified that the documents are available for them to look at. We would anticipate that, should that sequence happen as we were describing following our next building committee meeting, that the documents would be available to bidders on the 23rd, to filed subbidders the 23rd of September. Filed subbid contractor takes some time. They have 3 weeks here, leading up to filed subbids, which is about half of the work. It's all the trade work. On October 14th, for then another 2 weeks for the general contractors to put together their full bid based on the filed subcontractor pricing that we've received on the 14th. So we would anticipate that starting that bid window that Brian was just describing as taking 6 to 7 weeks on the 23rd leads us to a general bid received on the 28th. Give us a day or two to review that, and then we would be awarding contract at the end of October.
So just the file sub bids come in first.
Correct.
Which provides the GC an opportunity to review them so they can amend their.
And choose which ones they're using.
And then, okay, so the sub bids come in first, then the GCs look at those, they submit their bids.
Yep.
And then we review that, so, all right, so
No,
November 1st, award of contract, what's that?
yeah, roughly. But that's anticipating no
Correct.
challenges.
This is-
no issues with the bid.
This is optimistic. This is using Goddard's optimistic schedule
Right.
and putting our own optimistic schedule on top.
But the good news is that we have processes we have to do no matter what is going
Correct.
on with the MEP and the.
Correct.
area.
Correct.
So we're just trying to coordinate them at the same time, no matter what, no matter efficiency.
Mhm.
I do want to make, there's always another comment, I'm sorry for me, but we do have to bear in mind that when we get the final determination for the conservation management permit, you guys are aware of already,
Mhm.
is that those become part of the contract documents, because there could be something on there that requires the contractor to do something special on the site. Like put up an extra row of hay bale because of the turtles, or do something special. So we do have to make the contents of those permits and and certifications available to contractors. And they may or may not have that, you know, in the spec now. So
Yep.
That's important. And the same thing happens with the planning board and the building inspector. So we can't get a building permit until all that stuff has gone to them as well. That's part of the site plan approval. You've got everything you need. Now you're ready to go get your permit and your building permit.
And the language in the contract is boilerplate that the town council won't have any question about. That is the distance between,
Specifications.
no, but the bids are reviewed. The contract wording is now, how do we allow for, or do we have to allow for time for town council? to
Great question.
review the contract?
So the contract is the bid
Yeah,
specifications.
exactly is what's written in the bid is what the contractor signs.
The town council has already seen that. And well, that is,
Hopefully they have. I don't know who showed it to them, but it's in the front end.
All right.
of the spec.
Okay.
It has been sent to town council and
Yep.
town council has said they have no opinion.
And it's just for that, is so you don't issue a contract after. And then you have a ping pong match of trying to negotiate certain insurance requirements, certain things that liquidated damages that are in there. It's what you're bidding on. So
I see.
if you need to buy more insurance, or if you don't think that our schedule is long enough. And you need to couch your bid to make sure if you're late that you have enough money to pay for liquidated damages, that's what kind of affects your bid at that level.
I see.
That's a great question.
Ellen,
Okay, so this is all predicated on the idea that it's gonna come in under budget.
Mhm.
And what happens if it does?
that's the bid itself.
Yeah.
Yep. Another
Because
great
then we
question.
can't just review it for 2 days. I mean, it'll be.
Correct. Yeah, I would, my suggestion would be regardless of what the bid is, we need to have a meeting. Either the day after or the second day after the bid has come in so that we can give our findings, our recommendations. If it's under, we will balance that budget to show how we're putting the budget in. If it's over, the committee has to have some decisions about alternates on whether or not alternates are to be taken. And whether or not, if it's over, if we still feel comfortable issuing a contract at this point, and that would mean decreasing either contingencies at that point or certain other budgeted line items that have in there, or we don't, and we have changes to make and we have to do this process again. So one other thing I wanted to bring up the optimistic thing that I talked about, we're talking about going out to bid on the 23rd. The central register rules, the state of Massachusetts, is that you need to submit your advertisement to the central register the Thursday before. So that is actually the 17th of September, where you put your legal ad into the central register for it to hit the streets the following Wednesday, or when it is.
It would immediately follow one of our regular meetings on the Thursday.
So we may need to be flexible on when we meet. There's no harm in putting it into the central register, and if you gotta pull it before it goes out on the street, then no big deal.
What's the bid notification?
Correct, yep. But in doing so with the central register, there are other things that it needs to be posted on, which is your combis, needs to be in town hall, needs to run in the Lowell Sun, I guess here would be your local pub. All of those check marks need to be hit as well to expand, even though we're going out to pre-qualified bidders, it still needs to go out to all of them. Correct, yep.
It's mind blowing. It's amazing.
I'm just thrilled that we're already to this phase, you know.
I know, we're knocking on the door, Alan.
Yeah, yeah.
Knocking on the door.
Amazing how much we're putting into.
Yeah,
Oh, we've been at it for 2 years already, so.
yeah.
Longer than that.
Okay, all right, great. So I think, that brings us down to the pre-qualification subcommittee to provide an update and hopefully to vote to accept the recommendations.
So I'll say not as much effort as the Goddard stuff, but the pre-qualification effort was a big one. Thank you to Dave and to Dennis for all of their work that they did with us. I'm not taking any credit. I attended meetings and then had meetings with our team just to kind of say yay or nay. But Matt spent a lot of time going through a lot of things.
God, it's so cool. I'm assuming,
Oh, I
Yeah, so-
also, yeah, Dan
Yeah.
Arts and,
Yeah.
other members of the Catalan team who really kind of helped, get us across here.
And Lorraine, let's not forget.
I was saving that for last. Lorraine, she keeps us in check. She's as, type A as it gets with this. She knows it by the back of her hand. She's our procurement manager in our
Okay.
house. And so, she runs a tight meeting and, keeps our feet to the fire with how much work we're getting done. So thank you to her as well. Matt has the list here. He'll go through it. We left our last pre-qualification meeting voting on the list of contractors, both,
I'm gonna make that fine.
yep, we can do that. Both the filed sub-bidders as well as the general contractors. We voted to approve this and recommend it to the larger body with the caveat of a question from town council. And I think Matt can go through all of that and we can show you who we're recommending here for all of the proposed contractors.
How many applied as opposed to how many were approved?
Great question. I think we had 130 contractors all together, which is all of,
Subcontractors in general.
yep, all put together.
Yeah.
For general contractors, we had 14. For certain firms like electrical and plumbing and mechanical, we had a great response of all over 10, I believe, for each of those
There were
individual
between
trades.
15 and 20 for each of the MEPs.
Wow.
And for not pre-qualified, I believe we had 2 filed sub bids, one electrical, one mechanical, or one plumbing. And that plumbing was because it's a mechanical firm who was pre-qualified, who's trying to get into some plumbing business. They didn't have the experience for it, so we threw them up. For the general contractors, we're a little more rigid, and we set up some more kind of stiff guardrails to make sure we're getting the correct bosses on site. 14 applied, and Matt can confirm with this, but I think we're allowing 8.
This is 9 of them because of Boston Building and Bridge.
I'm sorry, 9. So 9 of the 14 respondents.
9 of the 14 will pre-qualify.
Are they ones you're familiar with?
Yes, they're all firms that we are familiar with. This is a experienced collection that we're very familiar with, that we often see around public construction, and who, through their statements of qualifications, have demonstrated that they have sufficient similar project experience to where this won't be their first senior center, that they've proven that they can do it, and that they are experienced in public construction, which has its own set of processes and expectations, things like certified payrolls, DCAM, things that are part of the process of public construction. We want to make sure that they know how to do.
So I've worked with all except 1, and I am currently working with 4 of them.
Wow, great.
And classic is out based on
Correct.
town council.
The firms that did not pre-qualified for essentially one of 2 reasons. Our evaluation weights very heavily similar project experience, and we had a definition in our request for qualifications about what a similar project is. And there were some firms who had projects that were, of a similar type, but not even close to where our dollar value of our project was. And it becomes a different animal at an $8 to $9 million project versus a $3 to $4 million project. It takes much more to manage a larger project. So beyond a certain threshold, we didn't consider projects to be similar to ours at 11.5 million, whereas the estimated construction cost we used in our RFQ. Another reason why firms might not pre-qualify was related to the requirement in the RFQ that they submit audited financial statements to demonstrate that they have the capacity to do the project financially. And there was a firm who did not submit and made it clear that they intentionally did not submit the audited financial statement because they did not feel that they had to. It's a statutory requirement. Their submission was deemed incomplete on that basis. So between the review of the management schedules and looking specifically at the similar project experience and the review of the financial schedules that were part of the RFQ, that is where the 5 who did not pre-qualify, that is why they didn't pre-qualify. It was one of those 2 reasons.
Oh, didn't one of them just not even though they submitted, they just didn't submit. They
Mhm.
kind of withdrew
That's-
right off the back and right off the bat, so lost
Mhm.
one that way.
Would you, for everyone's benefit, I was not part of the group that did all this work, but I did attend a couple of meetings and could you comment on the spread, I don't know if you could show the spreadsheet just quickly, the category, the way you guys,
Mhm.
your proprietary information.
Might take me a
use
second to pull that
to
up.
create you guys can comment on it if you want, but I thought it was very comprehensive, the Excel spreadsheet and the way you gave points to all these categories. And using that system was extremely clear that you were gonna find out who belonged and who didn't.
As a point of order, could we just talk about it verbally? Because if you put it up there, I'm gonna have to post it on the
Yeah,
website
just maybe
as a material.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Each firm that we look at is critiqued on probably 20 different items. And each item is broken into a subset, which you have to hit certain thresholds in order to even pass. It all adds up to 100 points. You need 70 to pass. And in each individual categories, you have a certain threshold that you need to meet. So from an administrative standpoint, you need to have managers that have been in the firm for X amount of years. You need to have similar projects that you've built in this size and this type, which would be municipal projects in the state of Massachusetts within a certain amount of time frame. We're not looking for someone who's trying to get their foot in the door for something like this. We don't want to be the guinea pigs for a new contractor. And we also make sure they have the capacity for it. And so all of which results to, all of these point systems. And then one of the bigger ones that we do, which is the biggest time suck for all of them that were part of this, is reaching out and getting references on past projects. So
Very great.
yeah,
I thought it was great.
And we, to that point, we did get, quite a few of the references, in particular on the filed sub trades. We divided and conquered between us and the Catlin team, and we're able to we just look at the list of all, we have to, a minimum of 3 references for all of these firms. It is quite an undertaking.
Great.
And we we couldn't have done all of it ourselves.
yeah, and credit to Matt and Lorraine and Dan Arts as well. They're bulldogs about these references. And one of the things that we want to make sure, especially with the general contractors, is that we're calling references from the similar projects. We don't really care how great they did on a door replacement job that was $500,000. And everyone says they were awesome to work with. Well, how do they manage a $10 million job that's similar to ours? And we wanted to talk to not only the designers, we want to talk to the other OPMs, we want to talk to the building chairs, and just kind of, how was your experience with this? So yeah, it's a big process, and I think we have a good pool here.
So, this list represents all of the firms that the pre-qualification committee voted on the 13th to recommend to the building committee that these folks be pre-qualified to bid with them, is what we're looking at here. That's what this list is. And I think we would be looking for, like any further discussion, but we would be looking for a motion to that effect.
I'll just say with an approved vote tonight, this will go to Lorraine, our procurement manager. She will send out notifications to everybody on this list and everyone that's not on this. That they did not achieve qualification. The committee's decision is final. That's part of the statute per law on this. And then this will become probably page 1 or 2 of our bid documents when you open it up, who was actually qualified to bid on this.
So we have to publish it so everybody can see it.
Yep.
Does that mean that somebody that's not pre-qualified could go ahead and bid on this?
Not for these specific categories.
Okay.
So a general contractor that's not on this list would not be able to submit a bid. However, I'm just using an example, a site contractor, which is not considered a filed sub bid, can submit bids to all of these general contractors to try to get onto this project. But for things like Miss Metals, your electrician, your HVAC, your plumber, your painter, all of which you will only be able to pick from this pool of people.
And the subcontractors who are not on this like the site
Yep.
folks, they would submit a bid directly to the general contractor.
Correct.
That doesn't go through us.
Correct. What we'll see is you're gonna get drywall site guys. They're gonna look at this list and say, all right, who are my GCs? Oh, I know this guy, and I hate this guy. I'm not giving him a number. And they're gonna call all of them and say, I'm gonna pull the plans when we're out to bid, and they're gonna give their bids to all of the GCs to say, here's my number.
It's sidewalls, not.
Correct.
That's fine.
I know.
And yet laughing and plastering kids.
Acoustical ceilings is fine, some of it.
Tiny amounts.
Drywall and rough carpentry is not.
I
One of
had,
the biggest contracts is the drywall.
I had heard that, the contractor for both Littleton and, Wilbraham were going to apply, did they?
That, so in the senior center?
Mhm.
No, the Littleton Senior Center did not, submit on this. They're a larger, we'll call it a construction manager, so they very rarely go after 149 bids, which would be low bid like this, but they like to do is a larger project. Littleton went this route that was their decision. It's a little more expensive, and you bring them in early rather than going through a bid process. You select them almost like you select an OPM at that point. As for Wilbraham, I'm working with them in Princeton currently. They did not opt to submit
They were pretty far away.
they're out in Charlton.
They actually missed the advertisement. I talked to him. He didn't realize that the advertisement came out. He was looking
It's
for it.
unfortunate,
later.
right, but
It sounds like you've got a lot of good people.
I think so.
We do. We have a lot of faith in this, in folks on this list.
Really
And
good.
because of the timeline, would we lose, would not all the general contractors bid on it?
There'll be, regardless of the time of year, backlog might become an issue with some of these. I'll just say candidly, I know it's a public meeting, J&J is a very large firm. They do a lot of big work. They could get a job within the next month
Yeah.
and say, maybe this is not for us at this
Yeah.
point. But that all just kind of goes to, every firm is going to be different on whether or not they submit a bid on this.
Yeah.
So we're going in with 9 general contractors, we could end up having 6 bid on it.
We could have 4 bids,
Yeah.
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 Is that a pretty good amount?
Yeah. Yeah, this is,
Yeah.
just recently we did Melrose, Public Safety. I think we pre-qualified 6 or 7, received 2 or 3 bids for the project, so.
Well, there's interest. That's good.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely is.
I think Arizona geographically is great. We're pulling from all different parts of the state where we're sitting right now, so.
And actually New Hampshire contractors too. I know there are some that are just over the board that we're definitely.
So, Madam Chair, can I make a motion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so, I move that the Senior Center Building Committee accept the recommendations of the pre-qualification committee as specified in the document dated
13.
8/13/2026 as the approved bidders for the Senior Center project.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, passes, all right.
Nice work, buddy.
Good job.
Dennis, you want to play rock, paper, scissors to call Classic after this? Because I owe them a phone call just to, I know them and
Yeah.
I don't want a generic letter from Lorraine to be how it is. I'm just.
No, and
So-
I was wondering, would they think about, having DCAM change
It's too
them?
late now.
No,
Correct.
so have
I think it would
DCAM
not
change.
behoove them to, let's challenge it, to challenge or protest this, because everything's final at this point. If they wanted, they would have to go to the Attorney General's office and spend a lot of money in order to fight something like this for a bid that they may not get anyway. So, it's unfortunate, but hey.
Bigger
Alright.
projects next time.
Okay, so thank you everyone for that. Then our next, we have 2 more major things on the agenda. So the next one is voting on the order of the ad alternates. John, do you want to lead the discussion on this one?
Not really. We have a list. Yeah, we have a list and we recommend that list. And the prime one that needs to be first would be the generator. And the wall partitions are the next two, and anything after that is yeah. Yeah, I'm not worried about getting the generator. I just like to have that comfort there. I think everybody agrees that the generator is probably well within the bid, but it's really safety. It's a safety thing to prevent it pushing it out. We have enough money in our contingency to grab the generator if it doesn't show up. But as far as the stone veneer and that could all be last. I think there were we want to limit it to about 4 or 5 items, and I think that's what's on the list. You want to walk through the list, Katie? I don't have it in front of me.
I didn't have it pulled up. I'm looking for.
No, there's a budget right there.
I think it's on the title page of the 95 student estimate.
Yes, and also
Yeah.
yeah.
And, oh no, wait, I'm
the
sorry.
first three.
Because that's over here. Sorry, I normally have these queued up in advance.
Well, while she's looking, the first three are generator, partition in the multi-purpose room, partition in the classroom. Then after that, I think there are just two more.
Pickleball court.
I have it up.
Pickleball courts.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can, yeah.
Thank you.
Share screen, it's gonna walk application window. Looks like that. Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Pan over. This looks a little bit different because my Hollywood Squares has taken part of the screen. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. So this is the list of alternates that John was just describing. So,
Yeah. They're not in the right order.
Now we put the-
The
So-
pickleball should go after the activity room operable partition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have been tracking both the generator and the multi-purpose operable partition as part of the project as on our total project budget sheet.
Correct.
Both of those have been included in the numbers that we have reported. And with those included
In the generator.
are, yes, a generator and the partition are both fit within our budget. We are on budget inclusive of those two items.
Good.
We have,
That makes it really easy to make them alternate 1 and 2.
correct.
You know you're
And-
going to
and-
get them, but it's the safety mechanism in the public bid process. That's
Correct. What's
What are you saying? It's not an alternate then because you built it in?
no, it's an alternate and we talked about this in the forum of the working group, that we've heard the feedback that the generator is part of the project. What this does in including it as an alternate is it gives us an extra, I guess, contractual safety valve that we know we don't intend to use, but it is essentially another way to ensure that the project comes in on budget in case there were a surprise on bid day and something came in higher than anticipated. That's, I think, what John was just describing.
And just any budget information that we've sent out to the committee since, I'd say, over a year now, that bottom line includes that generator as part of it. So it's not a want or a need. It's a need at that point. That's what we have in the bottom.
Yeah, the important thing is that I think in describing, the project, we've said for a while now that the project should include the generator. We want to build it with the generator. And in terms of our risk management for bringing the project in on budget, I think that Catlin feels that putting this in as alternate 1 and 2 is in the way that is most in the town's interest to achieve that, both in terms of bringing the project in on budget and with this extra layer of risk management that we don't anticipate needing, but that we have.
There are no other, for the committee members, are there any other alternates that you would conceive of or think about or?
Well, I thought we already went through all those.
Yeah.
Part of the idea here is that these alternates, they're not critical to actually building the building. They're all the infrastructure for everything except for maybe the pickleball courts is in place in the base bid. We have the structure, we have all of the wiring and the work in the electric room for the generator. We have all the structure and the support and the power for operable partition. It's all in the base bid. It's just the partition itself is like coming in and putting up a Christmas tree, if you will. It's all set to go. So even if you don't get, let's say, the activity room partition, it doesn't mean 6 months from now with some fundraising, you won't put it in. It's just all you have to, it's a piece of equipment that's added in place. So, and the only thing that you won't get if it's not in the base bid would be the stone veneer, because we'd be building it with, we wouldn't leave a blank spot for the veneer. It would have to be done at the time of the bid. So that's if it isn't in the base, if it doesn't come in on the budget, you won't get the stone veneer. And the pickleball courts is something built outside of the building itself. So the space is there, and if the bid allows it, we're going to get them, you know. But I'm as Matt was saying, the generator is certainly not a risk. It's just a safety valve.
It's an alternate, essentially in name only, because our budget has been carrying it, including it, anticipating that we're gonna build the project. I think that feedback was received, and this is how it is being structured into the contract, more so than suggesting that it's optional. It's not optional.
Should these be renumbered so that number
Yes.
2 now becomes number 4 and 3 and 4 move
That's
up?
exactly the
I
exercise.
said that.
That's what we need to vote on.
Yes.
So
So,
you want to make a recommendation as to the other?
well, yeah, so I think the emergency generator and the multi-purpose operable partition, given that we're carrying them in the budget, like we said,
Mhm.
should be 1 and 2. So then the question really is, what do we want to be 3, 4, and 5?
Mhm.
You know, I can offer my opinion, and we can go around the table and offer our opinion. I would rather see the pickleball courts as number 3, the activity room partition as 4, and the stone veneer as 5.
Why?
Yeah, can you flesh out why the pickleball court ahead of the activity room?
Because it's a smaller purchase, and I think it will, I think that the benefit to bringing in new people to the senior center with the pickleball courts operational from day 1 is more important to me than, you know, on day 1 when we open. I'd love to think that I'm going to fill all the rooms on day 1 and need that partition right away. But I think the greater impact is with the pickleball courts, especially since sources of funding them, as we've talked about how to fund them, involve a lot of, like, the most straightforward sources of funding them involve conservation restrictions, and little islands of conservation restriction don't really make a lot of sense to utilize recreation funds. So I'm just a little more concerned about where that funding would come from in the future versus $30,000 for this activity room partition. Is a smaller sum of money and a broader set of categories to fund it from.
It surprised me. Wow, okay.
But I'm one member of this committee,
I'm
so
good with
I
that.
wanna hear with other
That
people.
was, yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
good with that, but I want to mention, like, one thing quick about the pickleball courts. Everything we submitted in our documents includes the pickleball courts. So the site plan, the MEPA stuff, everything shows the pickleball courts being constructed. Why? Because we had to deduct that as part of impervious coverage. It had to be calculated that, you know, that's a paved surface or whatever it is. You know, so it's there on the drawing.
That's
So
good.
And the other
even though
thing,
we have an alternate in our budgeting of this. It shows it being there because we had to show it.
And the other thing is, I think, and this just occurred to me, because of what Katie mentioned. The public, I think, may be anticipating pickleball courts, so they might have heard that there are gonna be pickleball courts at the new senior center. If they don't get them, there's gonna be a bit of a brouhaha, whereas the second operable partition, folks may or may not miss because they weren't anticipating it being there from the, so.
And I'll just add as well, these aren't really substantial numbers that we see here. The pickleball courts is 1% of what we're at. The activity room operable partition is 0.3% of what the bid's going to be. And so whether it's 3 or 4, and this is just my opinion. When bids come in, I think we're either not going to take alternates or we're going to get the generator and we're going to say, all right, we'll figure out everything else after, or we're going to take almost everything that we have at this point.
We still, go ahead.
Could someone remind me about the stone veneer?
Yes.
I'm no one over there.
I'd like to just bring up one quick concern, I just don't want to see us get in any type of trouble. So when we looked at the Fogarty estimate, there was a meeting that we had months and months and months ago. We talked about the veneer and it was kind of we probably don't even need it. We'll keep it as an alternate, which we had done. And so in taking the Fogarty estimate, we looked through all of the filed sub bid thresholds on there. And the mason scope without a veneer table on this is peanuts. I think it's like $9,000 or $10,000. Therefore, we did not pre-qualify any masons on this project at this point. If a stone veneer table comes in and we want to pick that up, we don't have any pre-qualified masons that would have bid on something like this. I would have to look at Mass General Law on whether if the alternate is specific to a trade that's unpre-qualified, can the GC go out and contract to whoever this is? I think that's a bridge we can cross when we get there. And if it's something we really want to do, we may have to put a masonry package out to bid at that point. But
At the GC, in the meantime, we're gonna carry it based on.
he'll carry an
Not
allowance
drawings and.
and we'll tell him who he's using. Yes.
So, yeah, I understand why I like the stone veneer water table being there just because it looks nice. It might protect the bottom of the building a little bit. It adds a little character, I think, to the outside of the building, as opposed to having the siding come down all the way to the ground level. So, that's my view. John, what's your view of the?
Loves it.
I know he loves it. We're on the same side on this one, John.
Yeah, well, but we'll just put it last, and I agree with Brian that, who knows what kind of price somebody will carry, but I like what Katie suggested. I think the generator, the multi-room partition, and then the pickleball courts, and then the activity room, you could do it a year from now. Somebody will, raise some money for it. If you don't get it. But I tend to agree that the pickleball courts would be great to be done during construction. So if it's possible, I think that's a very good point on Katie's part.
So why wouldn't we leave them at 2 then?
Pardon?
Leave pickleball courts at 2.
Because I think I would prefer them to be 3 because the multi-purpose room partition is really going to be critical to being able to offer lunch and exercise simultaneously without them being an interrupted experience.
And that'll be used right away.
Yeah, that would be used right away because we will leave that room divided 90% of the time. And it will only be for bigger special events a couple of times a month that it will be open.
Most of the centers that we do, that is a very often used partition, for just like what Katie's saying. In fact, all of the centers that we've done with these partitions, they use it constantly. So it's a very useful one. That's probably the best reason to put it second.
Littleton made their multi-purpose room to be a pickleball court.
Yeah.
But I think they use that divider much more often than pickleball tournaments that they
Do you know if
have.
they've ever held an indoor pickleball?
I don't think so. I could check in.
They have some in Long Meadow,
Is that right?
yeah, but they.
Yeah,
the
but
walls
that's in a gymnasium with 24-foot high ceilings. I don't think Littleton has 24-foot high ceilings though, right?
No,
Yeah,
they're high, but they're not.
They're probably hitting the lights a lot.
Handover had room for one, but it was messing up their walls and
Yeah.
stuff, so they don't really use it.
Yeah, their IT
No.
director putting cameras up was furious at us lately.
Let people have.
North Andover doesn't have a.
Yeah, I don't have plans.
So it sounds like, the generator and the, multipurpose room, divider and the pickleball court. The question now, is it the, which one, whether it's the veneer or the, activity room, where those go?
I like
Well, we're all-
Katie's recommendation that, I prefer to have the veneer at the bottom, since I'm not a fan of the veneer. I've said it enough times.
I don't care about the veneer either,
You
so.
just said 1, 3, 2, 4, 5.
Yes.
Just as a little aside by the difficult architect.
Jeez.
We have a concrete sidewalk because we wanted to have a walk around the building. We have a sidewalk against the siding of the building all the way around the entire building. And when you run a snow blower or clear that snow, you have a good chance of damaging the siding. That's why the veneer is there. Whether you like it for aesthetics or not, it's there for protecting the base of the building. So, but I don't care whether it's last or fourth. It's not, but that's why we have it there.
What happens when the snow blower hits the veneer that's put on? It's only veneer. It's just chip the brick, chip the veneer.
Yeah, but it's a possible, scraping of a stone or a cast item versus hitting a very thin cement board, which will crack easily. That's the difference. That's all.
I mean, in my view, it makes the maintenance of the walking track around the building a little bit easier, just because, to John's point, and potentially salt being thrown down and all the rest of it. So, but that being said, I'll agree that we can leave it at 5 and do the 1, 3.
I'll just say, if we're arguing about that at bid day, that's a very good sign for everybody at that point. If they're-
So, but would you like it to move up higher on the list above the other partition?
It would seem that the 30 grand for the operable partition would be relatively easy to get. The 100 grand for stone veneer would be more difficult. That is, you could always add the operable partition 6 months down the road, depending on usage statistics. We're never going to be able to add the stone water table in.
Right, yeah, I think that's, you do it or you don't.
Yeah. So I would say put it at 4, operable partition at 5. And then we figure out a way to get the extra 30 grand when we need it.
I would agree with that. I think that it sounds like the stone veneer, is something that would benefit the building and maintenance of the building.
You haven't mentioned anything at the.
None of it really affects me. I don't play pickleball. I'm not gonna be the guy snow blowing. I'm not gonna be in the room with the partitions other than helping make lunch or dinner, so. If I'm using the generator, I'm gonna be home with my kids, so.
That's right, yeah.
So none of any of that really affects, and I would think that as much as the generator is gonna be a nice to have, I would think that if we're in a situation where you're using the generator, there's some kind of a major emergency going on. And so it's either we're using it because we're using the center as a warming or a cooling center. So the generator is gotta be the number one priority, but other than that. Pickleball courts. I think that's gonna end up being a phase that eventually is gonna disappear and. People are gonna be like, hey, let's put shuffleboard over there, or let's put
Indoor.
bocce. Let's put bocce.
Down the street.
Yes, exactly. But. I mean, I would say number one would be the generator, two should be the multi-purpose partition, and then. The rest is irrelevant to me.
Linda, did you have an order? Sorry.
I mean, I'm fine with 4 or 5 being either way. Pickleball, still I would put it 2, but I'm fine with the order. I just think the pickleball is something where we're saying it's a building for attracting or for active adults. That might be a key feature, and they're like, hey, you've talked about this, where is it? But we might get them all anyways, but that's the only reason I'm going with pickleball 2, but I'm fine with, 1 generator partition, 2 pickleball 3, and the last 2, it's either order's fine.
So it sounds to me like everybody's on board for the first 3 being generator, multi-purpose partition, pickleball court.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what order is 4 and 5.
Well, if you can't add 5 after the building's done, if it's veneer, then you should, if it's gonna be on the list, then it should go to 4, in my opinion.
I agree.
I agree.
1, 3, 2, 5, 4.
We won't just summarize that. We'll put it in an email to everybody. So that.
Okay, so can I can make a motion, right?
Sure.
I make a motion that we accept the add alternates in the following order. 1 generator, 2 multi-purpose partition, 3 pickleball courts, 4 stone veneer, and 5 activity partition,
Yep.
Second.
right? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Right. Wonderful. Okay, so now we are down to the vendor invoice packet, which I took the hint last meeting to stop printing those out. Do you have it to share, or do you want me to share?
Sure do. There it is. No one wants a live copy of my terrible signature?
Can you make that one larger?
I sure can.
Thanks.
We're being environmentally friendly. We're not printing all of it.
That's all right. Yep, green points. So for month ending July. We had several invoices that we're recommending for approval here. We can go to the second page. We've asked our accounting to break out some previously paid invoices that were done outside of this VIP, and both of those are through with the help of Dan B, who helped us with Air Police Department and the Commonwealth of Mass. The 6, and I think, Matt, if we're able to just see what those amounts are.
I thought there were 3.
Sorry, did I click? I
thought there were 3 that we approved out of order last time.
Yep, and we actually we have the details. This one, I believe, was I'll double check what that number was for.
And minimize the tiles across the top, then that would allow it to, I think-
Those are on the side for me. It's,
Oh.
that's not my, what I can do is this.
Okay.
See if that helps.
That's helpful.
The second one for $600 was to the state of Massachusetts, which was for our permits, which
Conservation duty.
it was for the plan permitting.
That's the filing fee. That's how I have to cut a check for it.
So we had to kind of rush a check on that one. The Air Police Department utility company fees for the 1,130 was for police details, which I believe had been paid previously, either in a previous VIP or something that the town had already paid, but we are tracking as part of this project. Your invoices that are being recommended for paid are through Vertex. We have, no problem, 22,000.
Sorry, Brent.
900 and.
There.
Hurry up, we're only getting 2 out. $2,200. No, it's $22,903.25. That includes the finishing up of construction documents and pre-qualification. As well as reimbursables for the hosting of the third party repository for that pre-qual. Callan Architecture has been is billing on two of their items, construction documents being finalized and for bidding for a total of $12,609. The Goddard has submitted two invoices. I believe one is from last month, but we caught up and made sure that they are going to be made whole here.
I just want to clarify. The ones that we tried to do last month.
Yep.
Separately, worded at the IDB.
Correct.
Were not accepted by the.
Correct. Correct.
We're not accepted by the.
Yeah.
It's
So
only able
yes.
to set an invoice that's within.
It's a great point. So this may be a redundant recommendation, but the town has not cut a check to them. So we had put these Goddard invoices in front of the committee when we met at the DPW. Now they are part of the official VIP that's going in.
They're a month behind.
Yes,
getting paid.
first being the $21,555.79. We then had for month ending June, for $19,825. Then have an invoice from the Lowell Sun. That's part of our advertising period for the pre-qualification for $450.63. I would anticipate seeing another one of these into the bidding phase as well. The last three invoices were forwarded to us by Dan V and the town engineer regarding the lease details that happened. We are charging this to the utility company fees, which we've been budgeting $1 million against. Respectively, those are $6,356.64, $11,140.76, and $10,966.08.
Yeah, right.
It's like
So-
30. Jeez.
Pretty expensive, and something that we weren't anticipating, yet we did not lower our budget what we were doing in the utilities, so we are accommodating it now at this point. Total recommendations for this month was $105,807.15.
To clarify and make sure. We believe now with all good intentions that that is the final billing for the police detail.
That's what we've been told, that this
So during
includes.
construction, we're not gonna have to do that.
So that's not 100%. Usually, and I'll verify, I don't want to say something that's incorrect, but usually in the specification, any police details, if we have large deliveries of steel and we need to have some sort of a lane closure, or if we have oversized equipment that's being brought down Bishop Road that may require a flagger or some sort of a lead car, that's all to be absorbed by the general contractor as part of their bill.
So I guess, someone can give us, you guys, I guess, can give us the final tally. I'm just gonna say, I guess it's 40,000.
It's something close to 40 grand that we had. Yep, so
That's a
I was hoping and I had my fingers crossed that $1 million we were going to save, maybe 150, 200 grand at the end of the day. That's eating into those savings that we were hoping for, so.
You got it.
Okay, any questions?
So we want to see one, you know, just want to show this, not the bills.
If you'd like, all of the backup is part of that, Katie, did you send it, did
Yeah,
the
that-
VIP get sent out to
The
everybody too?
VIP
Yeah,
was sent to everybody, and I apologize, the reminder was yesterday, normally I try to get it.
just for everyone's edification too, it's 30 pages right now, which is inclusive of our project budget status report, which gives kind of the health of the project. It gives all of the transfers, all of any budget transfers we have to take out of one bucket to another. But this 30 pages will now blow up to, it could be 70, 80, 90 pages once the contractor comes on board, because part of their application is their schedule of values, which is going to break down $10.5 million by $25,000 increments is what we're going to get in order to review their pay apps.
Mhm. Was there something in particular that you wanted me to go to review, Ken?
I just thought maybe, but most people about to see it, it was, you know, into the sewer.
Oh,
I'm sorry, you sent it to us,
Yeah,
so we gotta review it.
Okay.
yes, I think if there are questions about, like, going forward, I'll try and make sure you get it at least 48 hours in advance, but definitely if there are things that you want to look at in more detail, we can do those.
I think that,
Advance.
just to go back to one thing. This has to do with the garden I'm building. What happened last month when we had Dan with us was Dan reviewed the estimated the expenses for garden and matched it to the bills, and it did match up. So in other words, we're not just letting the garden go through, we had matched it with what they had given us in that proposal.
Their tasks.
Yeah.
What we.
Yeah, so we went through, we're in like whatever number task it is, but they were right on the same amount, okay? So what we don't know, I'll be honest, that we don't know is that those supplemental questions that were answered along the way, whether those are gonna be time that God has to put in.
The only thing that I'd be curious about that I'll have to work with Dan V on is the contract with CHB, is that the company?
Yeah.
That was a
There's,
lump sum T and M contract that was put together there. And if that has been fully paid out at this point, if it's anything less than what the awarded contract was, we'd like to know what that is so that we can realize that savings of the budget.
right. But that particular bill was CHP, right?
I think that's what it is.
We're kind of, we approved that, we looked at that breakdown.
Correct. Yep.
And it's scheduled.
And we paid that. And so I don't remember how much has been paid to what the actual awarded contract was. Usually at the end, there's probably some give back and take and adds that need to be fleshed out with the town engineer and Dan. But if there is less, we'd like to know.
We've been following up. I gather that CHB's requisitions are not quite as regular as we would. They're being captured in this as well, as those get sent to us by
Who
Batter.
was at 100? Was he at 100% or was the last bill?
Yeah, they were billing every 6 weeks or something. When we
Yeah.
have our contractor on this project, we're gonna have a really rigid thing to make sure we're hitting this schedule with this committee. So we'll have last week of the month is your pencil rec that gets reviewed by Catlin, or gets reviewed by us, comments go back, we get a finalized one, it's into the VIP, then we hit the building committee so that we hit a cadence of getting paid.
And they're gonna need to do it, otherwise they're gonna be waiting to get paid.
Question, what's the retainage? What do we have for retainage in?
5%.
5%.
Yeah.
Okay,
So at the end of the project, there will be instances where
so that's for early.
the steel guy's gonna ask
Yeah.
for some retainage release.
Yeah.
I usually don't give it. But there'll be 500 grand at the end of the project that
Yeah.
is kind of our leverage contractually to make sure things get finished correctly. But if there are any instances where the contractor wants to release retainage in certain things, some contractors would have been done their work for over a year by the time that we finish.
Yeah.
We bring that up to the committee and we discuss that on a case by case basis and with town accountant, because it's a math mechanism they have to do in the invoice in order to release that payment.
Yeah. Okay. We don't know CHB had, I don't think he had retained here, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I gotta get it home.
But check their record, I feel like they may have. I think they're 100% done.
They were out there today moving dirt, so I don't know whether that's just stuff that, they've already, that's what they piled off to the side that they're taking off site or what, but they were dump trucks out there the other day.
They still have a separate piece of work that they're directed to the DPW, which is.
It's the
Culvert, they're culvert.
They were moving, they had two trucks and a front end loader on the pile of dirt that was across from the.
Good. We want that going.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the building committee approve the vendor invoice package dated
July 31.
Oh, wow. July 31st, 2026, and the total amount of $105,807.15.
Second.
Wait a second, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Fine. Nothing, all right. There is no more public here, so no public input.
I have a question.
Oh, they both left.
John and Dan just dropped the thing.
Yeah. Really two outstanding things that they're talking about it, but. There was still, to the best of my knowledge, a hanging thing we got between John and the electrical engineer. This had to deal with the splitting of the electrical service, so that we could service portion of the electrical directly to the, future EV charging stations. And build up separate. And whether there was gonna be any additional fees.
Good
Yeah.
question. Yep.
That was paying.
If you reviewed the E-drawings as they sit currently right now, I can do that as well tomorrow.
They're still the same.
Okay. All right.
It's good, what we,
And they include, the current drawings include that being split into two,
no, the drawings, on-
but the recommendation
the
is,
drawings cover the adequacy of the building system to carry the power that's needed.
Right.
But she was checking, with, well, we were all checking, but we really needed the electrical engineer, and John agreed with the process, but we needed this confirmation that the drawings will show that. They don't at this point. What they do show though, which is very good, because this question came up as well. He said that they would solar. And we talked about solar at the state, we talked about everything you can imagine. And the fact that the drawings do show the underground electric requirement to reach potential show field over the retention bond. So that's all reflected in the drawings, and all the power for the building is reflected in the separate metering and the separate panels. That need to charge all the rest of the building.
but the recommendation, and I remember Dan distinctly agreeing with this, is that it should be split.
Right.
Okay. But the drawings don't yet reflect that.
Right.
And we don't, is John aware that?
Oh, yeah,
We talked about that in the working group.
Yeah, we've had separate conversations with him and working group conversations, and he understands that, because it needs to be shown what goes on to do.
Yeah.
But maybe not the end of the world, we can make a change later, but better if we show it clearly.
So I have a question too. Did they
Yeah.
decide on the paving material?
Exactly.
The paver, yeah.
Second question.
I was not at the last working group, so I think it's a question for you guys. Did
Where we left that was, I think, Khaled was investigating alternative products.
Yeah.
Because the one that they
Went out of
had
business.
used as their basis of design previously was discontinued. I think they were still trying to determine what the right one was, because they found some things that I don't think they were satisfied were engravable. And so that sort of disqualified those from further consideration.
Can we get that on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss the pavers?
Well, I think it would need to be, right, if at our next meeting, we're gonna want everything to be buttoned up to the point that we're approving it to go out to bid, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll confirm with them where they are with that. Last I heard from them, they were investigating what they wanted to propose as their product.
Just to be clear with you, is the concern the size of the brick or
Well, I assume they would be the same size, right?
probably,
Yeah.
yes?
My biggest concern is that the ones that have been used before are like a rubberized version, which we've always talked about as part of our safety thing. And that because this other place, he was starting to look at just regular cement
Pavers,
bricks
yeah.
that could be engraved. And I really would much prefer us to do a more extensive research in trying to find
Okay.
the rubberized.
Sure.
They were looking at what was available. So that was.
And given that we're gonna be selling them, and I suspect we're gonna get a big turnout for them, the engravability and how that process
Sure.
works.
That should be important,
You know,
too, yeah.
from one to, does the manufacturer, how that engraving occurs prior to installation or after install, whatever.
Right.
Well, we found that's what we're asking, because we've been looking for engravers and we have some information, but now the product's changing, so.
Well,
Yeah, so
and
and the
we've already,
friends are really interested
And they've
in
already sold some, actually.
buttoning that up so that they can.
we've already advertised and we're actually offering a discount right now for fair residents until the end of October. 50%, $50 off on the small brick and $100. So we're hoping to sell them, which is partly for us to get financing for some of our fundraising.
This is out, way outside the box and probably too late to even bring this up, but would it be worth just taking it all out? And the town procuring their own bricks that they want and having them engraved and installed at that?
No.
No, it's very expensive. No, it's about $50,000 for brick.
We would take it out of what we have in our estimate here. We would get a lower construction price for just removing it out of the construction.
They have bricks in it, what you recommend?
Yeah, or having a prepped area and working with an engraver and a potential installer
I
at the
think that
same
preference would
time.
be this.
Not the headache.
Oh, it will be. Oh, yeah.
I have a recommendation, and I will make the call myself. We need a member of our committee at this table who happens to be an expert in that part of the business, who installs this kind of work.
Oh, yeah.
And it's installed with that the Devon's location where the veterans has, and they're engraved over there as well.
Did they do them at the townhouse, the town hall as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
they
Who
did
is
the
this?
town hall. They did
one of our members.
one of the members on this committee.
Is this
Did
Bernard?
the actual work, yes. So, and I
The
can tell you
vice
from the
member.
conversations that I had with him, that he would never recommend a rubber brick, that I know. But I need him to, we need him to be involved and help us find the solution. I will reach
I
out.
guess
I
Can you
would
reach
say,
out to him?
I have reached out to him many, many times.
We
about
can
attendance
go
at
around and around all we
so-
want, is what I'm getting at, but we actually have someone who's done in the real world.
So I know some people,
And you have-
obviously, that have installed them, but they were already inscribed, so we just need to know what the material is.
So, anyway, let's get it done.
Well, I think it's awfully late for him to, being called a member of the committee.
Well,
Well, all right, let's not
Besides that,
do a personal
But he
conversation.
does know about this particular issue.
Yeah, yes,
There's a
so,
company here.
so let's renew efforts to bring that expertise on and see if we can get it resolved.
Okay.
If we get the material and you guys have an engraver that you're working with or that you're
Well,
giving.
we're
Well,
researching,
We
yeah.
have the engraver that has been used in the past.
Yep,
And he sent us a sample of his work, and he's very experienced. There's a
Sure.
lot of people who are recommending, oh, we should go local, we should go somebody that does plaques and stuff like that, who have no experience in different materials and et cetera. So I am mostly concerned about having a quality job done, and, because it's gonna be so public, and we're selling it for people to have a legacy for their loved ones, family and friends.
People are gonna notice this one.
so yeah, the reason I say it is in previous jobs, I think I brought it up before. We want to make the contractor do as much as possible, and if that means they submit on a paper that we've kind of specified for them. They can send it direct to the engraver, and then they go and pick it up from the engraver, and then they install the engraved pavers out there. And so we want to get as much ahead of that in the specs so that they don't receive the materials, they throw it all in. And now we're going, okay, well, what do we have left to engrave? Or how are we getting this to the engraver? We can get ahead of that and spell everything out in the specs so that ultimately, when the GC says, what do you mean? And Matt and I can flip to the spec and say, you got it right
You
here.
can't have this hanging around for the GC. This has to be perfect by the time we get to the GC.
Yeah.
So
Because-
it's gonna be perfect before we go to bid, is what he's saying.
Exactly.
Well,
It's gotta be perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, in an ideal world, that would be what would happen, would be the friends wouldn't need to do the engraving themselves. The only reason that happened at other properties is because it was that tile lock
It's taking
system
in and out.
that anybody could take it
in a
in.
Well, they also sold it after they sold them after the building was done.
Correct.
Everything
What I'm
is in
saying is that
plastic.
They were all in,
You
Yeah,
don't
they
have the
had to go
plastic,
and dig them up and take them
Right.
out.
plastic
Yeah,
thing,
we
just
don't
pop
want
them in and out. You don't have that.
So, I mean, my preference would just be that whatever we've received by X date goes to the GC and they can handle that.
Yeah, I can't see the general contractor running around and sending them to get it inscribed.
No, that's what.
No, the
I'm
friends were
saying.
willing to do that for,
Yeah.
What we've done previously
Yeah.
is make the general contractor ship the material
Yeah,
to the engraver
Oh,
that
yeah.
has been working with the town.
Yeah,
The town, that engraver who's working with the town has what his scope is to do. He finishes his scope on said material.
Mhm.
Now it's in the general contractor's hand to take it and install.
Mhm.
But you guys take that intermediate part of
Right, yeah.
doing the inscribing. It's shipping thousands of pounds of
Yeah.
stone from one place to another that I'm trying to circumvent the town having to get.
Well,
involved.
the engraver that he's used in the past is in Holyoke. And what they've done in many of the towns is they've just handpicked it up and brought it
But
back.
that's not
They haven't had
sustainable.
shipping.
That's why if we knew they were using Teco Block or Ideal Block, we could get them, any contract, we get those locally. We can probably find a local inscriber. And that would be the way to go, doing what he said, get the pallet of them shipped to, and then have them engraved and then.
Ideal over in Westford.
No, that ain't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the first
Disappointment.
step is
John
that
has
that
to-
John has
John
to.
Well, that's what we're
He
at,
has to
yeah,
step up,
yeah.
and he said he would do it
Yes.
weeks ago. So,
Well, we were gonna know this week, I thought, just so you know.
No, he told us a long time ago that it done. It hasn't been.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the point, yeah, is it
We gotta
needs to
bug
get
him.
done.
So
this-
Should we,
It's
should we
a-
reach out to the engraver and see what he recommends?
I completely agree. Yep.
Yeah, that's a whole separate conversation. Okay, so for anything else before we go to our next meeting?
Sorry.
Oh, no. So, so if, are we saying we need to meet a little early of our next meeting in order to get the advertisement done?
I say no. I think is the next third Thursday, the 18th or
17th.
17th.
Yeah.
My opinion and the way that we had structured the schedule, the more I think of it, I think we still need that extra week of comment period to get that through. We have a pretty conservative window there of our bid period. I think if we meet on the 17th, we decide this is what we're doing. The following week, we go into the central register. It hits the streets that next Wednesday. It is gonna bump everything a week from what Matt just showed, but we'll establish when bid dates are going to be due at that point after it.
Okay.
I think we'll be okay.
So it won't go in the central register on the 24th?
No, it would go in the central register, it would on the thirtieth. The 30th.
Central
Oh, so we
Register,
have to have it on the week of the.
Central Register publishes on
Yeah,
Wednesday.
do the
You have to
week
get
before.
it to
Yep,
them
I-
for Thursdays.
There, would we be able to stick with the schedule he's got?
The problem is the comment period that we have right now with me, but making sure that we're comfortable with what that is. I think if we wait that extra week, we're gonna have the information that we need to go out. The other selfishly is turning around all of the invoices for the week. And if we come in too early, we're either gonna give you a crappy invoice package or things are gonna be missed, getting all of you guys for approvals.
I think Dan, the scale and more than many of us, I guess, will be encouraging Goddard. They'll be talking to the analyst, I think is the term they use, along the way. And then maybe by 2 weeks or 3 weeks into the comment period, you get a pretty good idea of they're gonna make that bid, stuff like that. I'm just hoping that
Yeah,
if they do it the same way as they did with the ENR, then they actually give us a bid.
Yep.
If they meant to do it. So I'm hoping that they give us a bid now.
So currently, we're meeting like once a month. Are we reaching a point at which we should consider meeting more frequently?
And I think the substantive work of this committee right now is in the invoicing and then the authorization of each bigger step along the way. So, I mean,
My opinion is there may be one for when the filed sub bids come in that we want to review and discuss at that point. Once construction takes over, it's great that we have a monthly cadence for invoicing. The hope is that your job at that point is just taking updates from us and monthly reports and asking questions and getting good news.
Touring the site and watching it go wrong.
That's
there
right.
you go, right? So if we're gonna meet on the 17th, then we need to have a different location to meet. Do we wanna go back to the DPW? Because
Absolutely.
I'm supposed to be closed here the week of the 14th and the 21st.
Because they'll be raising the height of the
Because they
parking
will
lot.
be out there
2.5
raising
feet.
the height of the.
Hey, we should do it in the parking lot outside. It'll be nice out. We can watch.
So,
Sure.
I can get in touch with
Dan?
Dan, but
DPW?
DPW, or we can do fully remote, but
DPW.
DPW, okay,
So that's the 17th.
the 17th, yeah.
4:30.
Gee, I had a question.
All right. You had a question, Alan?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it went,
Oh, okay,
remember,
all right. Wait a second.
Second,
Yeah, if not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second,
oh, I remembered.
It's
too late.
Too late.
any further discussion?
Somebody taking pictures,
Oh, I was gonna ask them, actually.
because, I think we've been talking about having, things on the website and on the Facebook pages and everything about it. And I know once we start, we break ground, we'll have things, but we should have things up there right now of the, electrical and the water and all that. Is anybody doing that?
So Dan has on the town website already, he has a section of his website that was for the project. I took some pictures, I haven't put anything up yet because I was concerned that it would create
The environment thing?
more, just more questions than answers, because we're not there yet.
I got pitchforks and torches.
But once we're like gone out to bid, I think, or whatever, then I think, at least from the page that I'm managing, airseniorcenter.com, as well as the senior center portion, the building committee's portion of the town website, I'll update those more regularly. And then we're gonna be taking regular photos, right? As well, so.
So we may not be having full-time presence on site. I think we've discussed this, but as part of our management, we have a software that we use for daily reporting. So when we do have presence on site, we'll take as many pictures as we can throughout the day, and that'll spit out a daily report. And then those also go into a monthly report that we would distribute on a monthly basis for this. And then for that monthly report, I think internally we should all have a discussion as to what we want as content in that. Some towns want everything. They want down to the penny on change orders, where sometimes that creates maybe more angst with the community that maybe don't have the knowledge of how this construction process goes. But shiny pictures and progress photos and spend to date, percent complete, those things we can all handle with a bunch of
Yeah,
pictures.
because the Friends are waiting to start their capital campaign pretty much simultaneous with the groundbreaking.
Yeah.
So they're looking for a date for the groundbreaking, and also what kind of publicity is going to go out about did you all put out some kind of a press release when they did the groundbreaking in Littleton?
Yes,
Okay, do you have a copy of that?
yes.
Oh,
A lot of that was run through the town as well, is how they distributed communication on press release. We didn't get into who the actual release, we gave the content for it, but we can find
Yeah,
that
I'd
for
love
you.
to see it though.
And it may not have been the groundbreaking. I don't believe we had one. It was more of a ribbon cutting that was for that same type of thing
Yeah.
though, and how they did it.
I think it's online. I think I found it. It's a,
Okay. All right.
maybe that's it.
And I'm working with Ray, Economic and Community Development, to sort of talk about how the town will publicize some things, and then how the senior center will publicize. And then I would think that the Friends would pick up those two channels as well as your own.
We still
their
are.
own. No, we're still on. We haven't adjourned this meeting yet. So, yeah.
Now, how often are you sending up a drone?
Yeah,
You could send up a drone and monitor the construction from your living room.
Isn't there a no-fly zone because of the airport?
Probably.
That's probably a no-fly zone. It's the airfield is still there, so you can't fly drones in that area.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Uh,
Hi.
Chair says
no.
aye. Meeting is adjourned at 6:37 PM.